just want to ask you one question along the separation theory before we move on. There are approximately 22 million Negroes in the United States. Yes. There's an estimated 100,000 members of these who belong to your sect. Now, how can you expect 100,000 to dominate 22 million who don't feel the same way that you do?
Oh, Mr. Cups, the number doesn't mean anything. We have history dating back that just less people than that. Even the people that dominated in the world today, your own race, they was not started with even 100,000. Only 59,000 was used to make your own world. It don't make any difference about the number. It's only the ones that believing in the honest about accomplishing the aim and the purpose.
If you had your choice of territory in this country, where would you select?
Well, I'm not saying, as I have said time and again, I will not say where I would like to have a room in your house before ever you are willing to give me a room there.
Mr. Muhammad, in your book, you also say that war between the non-whites and the whites is inevitable.
If you will permit me, Mr. Cup, I would like to go back here to this separation again.
All right.
We often has been misunderstood on this. We know that the prophesy says that we should be returned or will be returned to our own. But I have said here in this book, and almost weekly I'm saying something about it, that if America wants to ease their troubles, as this is the trouble that she is confronted with, it is her slave. I don't care what someone might say or may say about the problem, but the problem of America, it is her slave. And the solution has been given. And this is just only a little twist of the solution that I am presenting to America today. That instead of all of this I would say, mistreating the poor man, crying out today for more justice and better justice, better recognition. Put him over here in some place. You have a house big enough to do so. Put him over here someplace to himself, regardless to what he say. You knows the truth. You know that he should be somewhere to himself, because you will never agree to all that he demands you of. You cannot do so unless you want to become a subject slave yourself, or that you want to get in the same status that your slave is in, to yield to all of his demands. That is trying to respect a once slave as your equal. You can't do that and keep your respect in the world of civilized nation. But you can, I should say, stop trying to force the ideal in the slave that he is as good, he is as honored, he is as much as the master. This cannot be accepted as truth, even from the master.
Would you
by
deny?
Just given, if you will just permit me, I will give you a chance then. By giving him a chance to sit in the house with you and talk with you and your family, or even marry your sons and daughters, that's not yet making him your equal. Or to prepare in your laboratories jobs for him, factories, build factories to give him a job, keep him at work. That is not making him your equal yet. He's still unequal. And it's a real ignorant thing to say he's my equal because I give him social status with me. This is bad on the white man's part, even to offer his slave integration in marriage and intermarriage. It only makes him worse in the eyes of the world, and his intelligence is now has been, I would say, lost, and his decency of his society is lost, even by just offering the slave such opportunity. But if he would go and offer his slave a place over here to himself, say, boy, you have allowed me to use this slave. Boy, you has been a good old plowboy for me. Now I'm going to let you plow for yourself. Here's a mule, here's a plow. I will furnish you plow tools until that you are able to pay for them or make them yourself.
You don't think that the white man really thinks of the Negro as boy anymore, that this era has
allow me
so
to
many
use
years
the word,
ago?
but he still calls them boys in many parts of the country.
You still refuse to acknowledge, though, that the tremendous progress of any number of Negroes in all the arts, in all the political world, in all the sports world, in the entertainment world, in education, these people are not the equal of the whites with their tremendous success?
Well, if he has made progress in the way of civilization for the white man, or in the civilization of the white man, well, why object then to him doing this for himself? Let him make a way now for himself.
But don't you feel, Mr. Muhammad, that this success is generated among the Negro youth who look up to these people as idols, and they themselves take a place in the society as successful people, inspired by their own people who have made successes?
Until he learned the truth. When he learned the truth of himself and of those who that he is worshiping, then he will go for himself, as I have the spirit to go for myself. I don't want to be a slave for you. I don't want you to use me as a servant. I want to be my independent self. I want some of this earth for my people like you. You came here and taken it by the knowledge and power of your own fathers from the Indian, and you made a great country out of it. Then you goes back to my country and brings us here to serve you as slave, free labor. For 300 years we has did that for you, willingly or unwillingly. We did so, and our fathers. Now for 100 years, you say we are free, and 100 years we are not free. We are so blind, deaf, and dumb, we still look forward to you to make our clothes for us, get the cotton and the wool, go and put it through the mills, and make cloth out of it for us, and we still sitting looking at you do all of this for us.
Mr. Muhammad, if you'll pardon me, I must say that your interpretation of the Negro is far different than mine. You sound more like Governor Wallace when you say the Negro is deaf, dumb, and blind. You don't want to be linked with Governor Wallace as one of the outstanding racists.
No, I say that because God himself said it. It's written in the Bible and Quran. Wallace didn't write this.
No, but he announces and enunciates the same principles that you're enunciating.
Well,
that the Negro is dumb.
Well,
and not
he's
equal
saying
to
what God in the Bible say. Your Bible say that we are blind, deaf, and dumb, and even dead.
Well, many people certainly will disagree with anything that the Wallace
Well, they disagree with God and the prophets then.
Only in your Bible, not in any other Bible.
It's in your Bible.
That the Negro is dumb and blind?
I got mine from you.
We'll have to pause for a moment, Mr. Muhammad, for a message, and we'll be right back. Mr. Muhammad, I know you want to say a few more words on separation before we go into another subject.
Mr. Cups, I'm very anxious to finish what we started with on the separation. It is very nice and good for America to prepare educationally her slave that she once had in servitude. The education that we have acquired from white America, it will help us to begin for self anywhere on this earth that we may prefer to go or stay. If we are to stay here with you, we must stay in a separate part of America with you. And the education is still accepted. We need all the education. I must stop and say that. that we can of good education to help us to go for self. And as far as our reaction to what we have acquired in the way of education, it doesn't mean that we should now be satisfied to remain with you just because that we have now acquired more respect of self in the way of education and can do more better service for you than we have in the past. The thing of it is, since we have acquired enough to make a step out of the house of bondage where that our fathers was enslaved or put in bondage, we should now go, and you should help us to go and provide the necessary means for us to continue going in the way of self. This would also give you a great and a good name. The slave master sent his slave off with the provision to keep going for himself. We need modern tools now. We don't need to apply a mule. We need a tractor. And we need the land, certainly, that will provide a living and the necessity of life otherwise, such as buildings and other machineries. We want that we can go into, as you have went into it, and pull out of her treasures the necessary means for us to build a nation for ourselves.
But is this consistent, Mr. Muhammad, with your position? You were saying about the Negro doing things for himself. Then you say the government must turn around and give him all this territory and operate it for him for 20 years.
We think the government is obligated. We have given her 400 years. And now we want to go for ourselves. How are we to get started for ourselves if the slave master is not willing to provide the means for us to go free for ourselves?
In your position on separation, did you feel that the Supreme Court made a mistake in 1954 when it ruled that segregation must end in the public school systems?
No, I don't say the government made a mistake by saying the kind of segregation that we have lived under should be terminated. I don't think she made any mistake there. But I do think the government is making a mistake now to try to hinder us from being separated, since we have already lived under segregation for the past centuries. Now we would like to be separated and live over here to ourselves, since we cannot get along with you in peace.
Let me take you into another area that we discussed at the opening of the show, Mr. Muhammad. That is your prediction in the book, The Message to the Black Man, that the whites and the non-whites inevitably must come to a war. Do you really feel that there must be a war between the races?
If you will not submit to the law of justice, freedom, justice, and equality, and submit to do good, certainly, this is the time that good confronts us to rule the people, and not evil. Your history teaches us that you have always warred. In Europe, there was once a 100-year war, a 30-year war, and they have continued a war history of your race ever since you had civilization in
But it
Europe.
isn't only the white man, Mr. Muhammad. Every man, white, red, yellow, has always engaged in war just as much as the white man.
History never give us any knowledge of a war between the brown, yellow, black races before you.
Well, the Chinese and the Japanese warred for many, many centuries, and certainly the blacks in Africa had their tribal wars, and the Muslims and Christianity had their religious wars.
But
I mean, war has been a part of man ever since.
And in your sphere of ruling the people since 6,000 years, you will mention what happens